Okay, we are live. Super excited about this session. Call to minister to social media groups. We had a couple. I know Keith's internet went down, so he won't be able to log in. And George may be joining us here shortly. We'll find out. But we are so excited to have Kelly with us in the session. So Kelly, you and I will take this lesson home. This is I know you're super passionate about this topic, and so am I. So this will be very good. So Call to Minister social media group. Kelly is executive director for gospelstudy.us. And Kelly, also tell us about the group you started and in your experience with groups, because it's an amazing story. Let's start there so people can know a little bit about you.
We just got the impression that we needed to start a Facebook group. I knew nothing about Facebook groups, but ministering was the new thing in the church, and everybody seemed to have lots of questions about it. And I thought we should set up a ministering group to help people support each other in their ministering efforts. So we started Latter-day Saint Ministry. That's the name of the group. And we only had 200 or 300 people in the group, and I never expected it to go beyond 2,000 or 3,000 at the top. But people got so excited about sharing their experiences, helping others, and they started responding to each other's comments to the point that Facebook started to advertise our group for us. And all of a sudden, we were getting 1,000 people a month asking to come into the group, and now we're over 73,000, and it's only been about a year and a half. So it's just grown leaps and bounds.
Oh, that's amazing. And it is, tell us about how has that group helped, tell us, how has that group helped people, right? How have you seen ministering happen? What have you noticed in that group as you brought it together?
My wife and I tried several different things. We would ask for suggestions, tell us what you've done about this, or give us your experience with this, and we'd get almost no response. But if we make it personal and we say, I have tried this, and this failed miserably, what could I have tried different? People come out of the woodworks to answer. If you say, my neighbor did such and such, and we thought that was such a great idea, then people will respond by the hundreds. As long as there is a personal connection between the post and the people reading the post, they see that there is something in their life that matches or fits with that, then they get excited. And people have become very comfortable sharing their own personal experiences in the group.
So the sharing your experiences and asking questions that are personal, you found that to be very successable in the way that the group was engaged in.
Yes.
And how do you take that then to teaching people? How have you been able to take that to the ministering level?
When we first started the group, we had to make sure that all of the things that normally come into groups got weeded out. We had the grammar police, and we had to teach people to be kind, because at least half of the group lives outside of the United States, split between the Philippines and Africa and Polynesia. And a lot of them, English is not their first language. And so oftentimes when they post, you have to interpret what they're trying to say. And we've taught people by actually saying, let's be kind, be nice to each other, and complimenting people when they are kind to each other and acknowledging that as an admin, you're aware of how people are treating each other. That has developed some real fierce loyalty because people are happy that somebody is actually looking out for them, and they feel safe when they post that people aren't going to gang up on them. And if someone tries, we talk to them, we deal with them, and if need be, they're shown the door. There have been a few people that we've had to get rid of from the group because they just don't know how to be nice. But most people, if you ask them to be kind and you display kindness in all of your answers, they're kind in return. And many of our members are not members of the church.
No, I love that, because as people start engaging in Facebook groups to share the gospel of Jesus Christ, the first thing they have to realize is that there are people like Kelly who are admins of these groups, and they love these groups. They've started these groups, and it takes a lot of time to police these groups so that you don't have the spammers. You can build a good cultural trust and a good cultural relationships. And if they see negativity in those posts, they're going to get rid of people. And I remember when I first started doing this digital missionary work in groups, I was able, and I thought this was amazing, I was able to work my way into one of the biggest groups, the Christian groups on Facebook. And they said, "Steve, would you like to be a moderator?" And I was tickled to death. I was like, oh my goodness, I made it into this group. They didn't know what religion I was from. And I made it to the group, and there was a chat just for all the moderators, Kelly, which I think you probably have as well. And they all discuss posts that are coming in, who should they keep, who they should kick out, how do they monitor the group. And they actively do that. And then, and they spend a lot of time doing that. And I remember one day, and I don't do this at all, but one day I had this feeling that I should, it was during sacrament meeting, this horrible thing. But I had a feeling I should look at my phone, and it clicked, and it was in the moderation group I just joined. And they said, "Oh, there's this Mormon coming on board. His name is Joseph Smith." His name was really Joseph Smith. And they said, he looks like a Mormon, and you know what? I think we're going to boot him. And I was in that group, and I prayerfully was like, "Oh, what do I do?" And I said, "Well, I said, well, do we, shouldn't we kind of give people a chance and hear them out? And then before we do that," and they said, "No, because when they join, they just proclaim openly, and they kind of ruffle feathers." And then they booted him, and then that same day I was booted from that group. So I started realizing, as we share the gospel and we're entering these cities, I guess I call them virtual cities, we need to, number one, pay our respects to understanding that this moderator is trying to keep control of things. And they want people that come in and they add value to the group, and they share and help the group improve as a whole. They don't want someone that comes in, blasts a message, and is out. So tell me a little bit about that, because that is such a critical component to understand that these people are trying to manage a virtual city, and that you need to be part of it. And the more you serve and build your reputation, the more ministry and opportunities you have. So do you agree with that? Tell me your perspective on that.
Let me tell you about a current example.
Yes.
I'm sure you've heard about your favorite guys in white shirts and ties.
Yes.
Well, Elder Quesner was talking to me about what a failure he thought they were, because they'd been online for a whole month and they only had 3,500 likes to their webpage. And I said, I should slap you, Elder. I said, I would kill to have that many likes on my gospelstudy.us page. And I said, you are not a failure. I said, what you have achieved in just 1 month is remarkable. And part of the problem with admins is that they don't really have a sharp focus for their group. Sometimes it kills me to see all of these wonderful things that people want posted in our group. But I have very specifically outlined what we talk about in Latter-day Saint ministry. And if it has nothing to do with how to serve others, how to share the gospel, how to do temple work or family history, that kind of thing, or how to be kind to others, it doesn't get posted. So people share temple pictures, but because it doesn't teach us to go to the temple or to do things that are good, they don't get posted.
Yeah.
And so I maybe accept 1 out of every 20 posts that are submitted. And some of the posts are really wonderful, but they just have nothing to do with our group. So people who come to the group learn that they're going to get a certain fare in Latter-day Saint ministry. But with a lot of groups, it's sort of and this is part of the problem when people decide, I want to be a digital missionary. Where can I go? What group can I go to do my work? But some of the groups are so scattered in what they'll accept that it's hard to focus on any one thing, because the admins will just accept anything. It's just a potpourri and a free-for-all. And so that makes it kind of difficult. But I found over the years, because I've been doing this for 7 years now, that people who get on the bandwagon and they want to start posting things and promoting something good, most of them don't last more than 2 years. Many of them only last 6 months. And so you'll see them coming and going. There aren't very many that have been around and are still doing what they started to do, like I am. And if they're there, they're usually in the background, still doing what they started doing all those years ago. But most people that will come and make a splash, it's very temporary. And that was one of the things that I told to this elder, is if you want to do this when you go home, because he goes home this week.
Yeah.
I said, if you want to continue this, you have to plan on making this a mission. It's something that you do as part of your life. It's not just something that you do to get, because you're not going to get rich doing it. You're not going to make a lot of money because you're doing missionary work. And missionary work does not make money. Now,
Right.
maybe somebody will figure out how to do that, but I certainly haven't. And so I said, you've got to plan on it being a sacrifice. And you just are there all the time. And that's one of the keys to building up a reputation as somebody people trust. It's like Mark Hare. His posts were always good, responsible, spiritually minded. His comments were always supportive and kind and productive. You could trust anything Mark Hare posted. And so I love it when he submits something or when he comments in the group, because people have grown to trust him. And that's one of the keys to being a good digital missionary, is have you built a reputation of solidarity, that you are always kind, always Christ-like in your responses. You don't put people down. You aren't sarcastic. I've spent a lot of years working with people outside of the American culture. When I was at BYU Hawaii for 15, 16 years, it was mostly Asia and the Pacific. Now that we're here, I'm spending a lot of my time with people in Africa, because my wife are also virtual missionaries for the Pathway program to Western Africa. A lot of cultures don't understand sarcasm. And a lot of times, and I noticed this in one of your previous sessions, people haven't been approached by people from other cultures, and they don't know what the expectations are. I've had dozens of people ask me to be their father because they don't have a father figure in their life. But I know better than to say, sure, because I don't know what the cultural expectations are by accepting that responsibility. And so I tell them, I cannot be your father, but I can be your friend. And I will support you and give you moral guidance, whatever I can give you. But there won't be any money involved. There won't be any green cards involved. And I just lay it all out. I say, if that's okay with you, I would love to be your friend. And I would love to talk to you about whatever you want to talk about. And some of them have dumped me right away, and others I'm still talking to years later.
Oh, I love that, because when you do a digital missionary work, and it's a little different. I think missionaries learn this, especially later in their mission, because they get transferred a lot. So their relationships they don't have a lot of time to build relationships. So they have to go in there and get the work done with the short amount of time they have. But when you're dealing with the digital world, if you go in there and looking for quick results when you're doing the Lord's work, it's really going to be really tough, because you're entering a new group, which is like a new city, and those admins are very watchful of their sheep, and they've seen a lot of scams, and they've seen everybody trying to finagle their way into selling into that group. So they're very careful. So what they're looking for people that come in and can add value and want to really help out, to your point. Now, once you start doing that and you realize you have a reputation, then you're going to start ministering to people. And those people you're ministering to, they're not going to be a hit and run. I shared it, boom, I'm out. You're going to build these, for every person you start engaging with online, you're building a, hopefully, it's eternal relationship, because you're trying to get them to return to Heavenly Father's presence. So I remember you told me a story of like, I built friends with someone in Africa, and man, that's a lot of time to help someone out through their whole progression. And same as mine, I think the most people I can manage at one time from people that I share the gospel with is 7 people. That's kind of how I figured out, because 7 people giving advice, helping them progress in the time I can dedicate is a significant amount of time. So it's a labor of love. It's a labor to help people progress to Christ. It is not a hit and run, get things done. Would you agree with that?
Yes. I've written articles about ministry. Too often when we go to do a ministering project, that means we have a start date and an end date in mind. And ministering doesn't have end dates. It may have a start date, but it does not have an end date. Once we decide to be Christ-like, we can't just stop being Christ-like, because we either are or we aren't. So we're either fake or we're real. And if we go to somebody and, we're demonstrating love to them and concern for them, you can't just turn that off. You can't just say, okay, we've done enough. Even if they decide that they don't want our relationship anymore, that doesn't mean that I have permission to just emotionally dump them. Because ministering is it's a passion. It's a commitment to somebody else's welfare. And so when I go into somebody else's Facebook group and I start actively participating, I'm looking for people who have cries for help. And they're all over the place if you know what you're looking for. And all you have to do is be good, be supportive, congratulate them, promote them. When you see somebody that has done good, turn around and tell everybody what you saw. Say, so-and-so has done these wonderful things. You should go look at their post. It won't necessarily make you popular, but people will be appreciative that somebody notices them. And I think that that's what it means to bring people to Christ. It's helping them feel safe, secure, and loved, appreciated, cared for, like somebody knows they're alive. And a lot of people, because Facebook is anonymous, they try and put out these personas, and sometimes you have to break through their personas to get to the real person. And sometimes that may take private messaging, because not all conversations can take place in the Facebook group. But we also have to, as digital missionaries, learn to set boundaries. Sometimes people will give me a friend request and they immediately demand my phone number. And I just say, sorry, I don't do phone calls with people I don't know. Once I know you, then we'll talk about phone calls. But so you have to protect yourself too, because there's every kind of person in the world out there on Facebook. But there's so many opportunities to just be nice to other people. And that's a real important skill to learn, is to learn how to be nice to other people consistently.
Yeah, no, I love that, because the difference of being in the city and knocking on doors, and you knock on door, you got 3 minutes or 1 minute to say your message, and then the door slams, or they'll let you in. That's the world we're used to from a missionary perspective. Online is completely different, because you need to build this reputation through your posts and through your comments, and then they got to feel like you're genuine. And they got to feel like you really care about what they have to say, and you're trying to help them out. And then when you engage in a messenger discussion, you have to be genuine. You have to be able to help them progress and know at the right time to exchange information or to make a request. And that could take a while. It could be a short period of time. But the part that I really like, where you became emotional, is the genuineness. So usually when I've worked with missionaries online, I could feel, and I was one of them. So the more you can feel genuine and caring like Christ would care, the more impact you can have on social media. And it takes that, there is that component of where you got to make that switch. And it's not about what you want to provide to them. How do you make that switch? Let me ask you that. Because as admins, our biggest thing is I would love missionaries to come in and be genuine and loving in my group, because I know if they do that, hundreds of people will come, right? But if they aren't that way, I know nothing's going to happen, and it's probably going to be not good for them to belong there. But what would you suggest to them to make a switch from, pushing the gospel to being genuine and caring? How does that, how would you suggest that to happen? What advice would you have for them there?
As in, when does it become personal?
How do you become a digital missionary that you have the passion to have a trumpet and sound it across all the earth, right? Which is a great thing to do when you're off your mission, to being someone that's caring, personal, loving, and caring about that person more than you care about blasting the message.
It's just like the missionaries in the mission field are told that they had to go do a certain amount of service every week. That doesn't mean that they were there to preach while they pulled weeds. They were to just go and do service, because doing the service helped them fall in love with the people.
Yeah.
And that affects how they are able to share their message. So serving the people in the group is important. Not being there to, like a predator, looking for somebody they can pounce on. But you're just looking at where people are at and acknowledging, okay, this is where they're at. It may be a very surface kind of group of people, but as you make comments, as you make connections with individuals, as you post things of your own, little by little, opportunities will arise, and the Spirit will say, say this or do that. And some of it will be very counterintuitive. But if you're listening and you're feeling while you're doing this, then you'll do and say that make no sense to you, but will affect people's lives. And there's something about goodness. It has a ripple effect. And the Lord can trace those ripples. And he can squeeze every drop of goodness out of any effort we do to be kind to each other. And that's what we're there for. The Lord will do the converting, but we need to be the goodness that glorifies God. And so by doing that, he will open the doors where the doors need to be opened. He will make the opportunities for us if we're there doing the work. And most of the things we do online are going to be boring and mundane because we'll just be supporting and being good and helping people and promoting people for their own goodness, congratulating people on their triumphs and their victories, consoling people that are expressing trouble and sorrow. That's what we're there for. That's how we fulfill our baptismal covenant, to mourn with those that mourn and to bear one another's burdens. That is not using a trumpet most of the time. Most of the time, that is the quiet, peaceful, kind hand on the shoulder that tells people somebody cares.
And I think that's fabulous. This has been a great session. My biggest takeaway from, and I know you serve diligently as a digital missionary, and you give all you have to the Lord. And that's my counsel: as people engage in groups, go forth to serve and love. Don't go forth to sell and promote yourself, right? You're not going to last long, like Kelly said. But if you go forth with serve and love and not expect anything in return, the thousands and hundreds and thousands and millions will want to be part of this. That I testify. And so, Kelly, I appreciate it. Thanks for your amazing service. You are a awesome digital missionary in every way possible, and I hope people can learn from you. So, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.